In this lesson titled Page Setup, we're in Workbook Lesson 06, Prep for Printing, and we're in Worksheet tab, Page Setup. In some previous lessons on Page Layout View and Page Break Preview, we talked about several strategies in getting your Excel worksheet ready for printing. The major problem being we just have too many rows and too many columns of data to fit onto a normal sheet of paper. We have several different ways of viewing our data: normal and page layout view and page break preview down here in the very bottom, these three little icons. And we also learned that you can come over here to File and Print to see our print preview to see what our page is going to look like when we print. When you're in the print preview, you also have a lot of the same commands that are available in the ribbon. So you can see right from here, right from our page preview, we have a lot of great commands. One of them, for instance, is page orientation. So, for instance, I'm cutting off quite a few of my columns here. There's several more I want to show. If I simply change the page orientation to landscape instead of portrait, now I get all of the columns that I was hoping to show. This could be very useful for you. You could also come over to custom margins if you needed more room or some less room. So for instance, I could come over here and say wide margins, and I have a lot more white space around my table. Let's go back here and try narrow margins. Narrow margins actually gives me more room, and so I'm starting to see some of the other information in my worksheet, which I don't want to see. But with narrow margins, it does allow me to put in quite a few more columns, especially because I'm currently in my landscape view. So I'm going to come back to portrait and see how that is. And that's, getting quite close to what I wanted. My narrow, I'm going to come back to normal. Now, there's also some great features for scaling your document. You might have just a couple of extra columns that don't fit and a couple of extra rows that don't fit. And this scaling feature is extremely useful. If I said fit sheet on one page, it would shrink everything on my worksheet to fit on one page. The problem is my current worksheet has 742 rows. So if I click this, you can see it's a bit disastrous. All 742 rows are trying to fit there. But I do have some other options. Maybe those would help. How about fit all columns on one page? Well, that's not as bad, but you can see I have a lot of columns that actually I don't even want these to print, and it's trying to show all of these. But this could be very useful for you. I'm going to go back to no scaling. We also have down here page setup. So page setup gives us many of the commands that are already on the ribbon under page layout tab. But we could get it from here as well because it might be more useful while you see your page preview to be working on making some of these changes like landscape or portrait, adjusting the normal size, the overall scaling. You can fit to, and you can say how many pages. We also have margins, and now you have even more control over your margins. Not just wide and narrow and normal. You can actually dial in the exact number you want. And this happens quite often when printing, where you might get instructions where they say we want half-inch margins all the way around. Well, that's not the default. You would actually put in, 0.5 for that. So sometimes you have to actually highlight it and say 0.5, and I'll hit enter, and that will accept it. So I have a 0.5 over here. So margins is really quite useful. Let's come back here to our page setup, and we looked at margins, and we can also look at header footer. In an earlier lesson, we talked about an easy way to get to our header and footer in an interactive way by just simply going to our page layout view, which is the small button in the bottom right corner. And that's interactive where you just click and type. But here you can see your header and your footer together. and you could simply decide what you want in either one of these and just click Custom Header, and you get the left, center, and right sections, and you get some little icons, and if you hover over them they'll tell you what they are. But here you can put in page number and number of pages, date, time, file path, insert the actual file name, insert sheet name. You can even insert a picture from here. And you just simply delete those and put in what you want. And from here you can also just type in whatever you wanted for a header. I could say my report, and that's what would be there. And over here maybe we want this to be the date, and over here maybe this is number of pages. So we don't get an update. We don't actually get to see what it'll look like, but we can put that information in here. Let's say OK. And we can custom footer. The same kind of controls are available. You can either choose these commands and they'll put in code, or you can simply type anything you want. Like this could say confidential. So we have the same kind of commands and they're available in different places. I say OK and we get an update. Page 1, my report, the date, and down here at the bottom in the footer it says confidential. Lots of commands for printing, and they're available in different places in Excel. You just have to decide what is most useful for you.